The Galactic Council, made up of the most powerful species in the universe, gathered in their grand chamber. The long hall was filled with the leaders of countless civilizations, each one more advanced than the last. The room buzzed with whispers as the council prepared to make their final decision. Earth, a small planet they barely thought about, had sent a desperate plea for help. But to the council, Earth was nothing more than a primitive world, teetering on the brink of destruction. "We have heard their cry for mercy," said Commander Zoth, the leader of the Nazari, a race of towering insect-like creatures. His voice echoed through the chamber. "But they are weak. It is time to end their misery." The room grew silent. The council members exchanged glances. Earth's fate was sealed. The vote was simple. Earth would be exiled from the galaxy. Its people would be left to perish in the war raging on its surface. The council had no doubt that their decision was the right one. After all, the humans were just a small speck compared to the vast, powerful empires that ruled the stars. But what the council didn't know was that Earth had a secret, something they had never imagined, a secret that was about to change everything. On Earth, President Carter stood before his people, eyes full of determination. His speech was broadcast across the globe. "We are not afraid," he said firmly. "The galaxy thinks we are weak. They think we are insignificant, but they have no idea what we are capable of. Today, we stand together, not as a small planet, but as a force the galaxy will soon know." The president's words were more than just a rallying cry. They were a warning. And the world was listening. Across Earth, humanity was gearing up for a fight they never asked for, but were now ready to face. Back in the council chamber, the vote was complete. The council had made their decision, and the declaration was read aloud. Earth will be exiled, and its people will be left to fight their own war. But just as the final word left the speaker's mouth, the room was suddenly plunged into darkness. The lights flickered, and the floor rumbled beneath their feet. A loud, deafening sound filled the air, followed by an explosion that shook the entire chamber. "What in the galaxy is happening?" cried one of the council members, panic in their voice. Zoth, the Nazari commander, rushed to the central window, looking out into the vastness of space. His eyes widened with disbelief. What he saw was impossible. A single warship, its silhouette illuminated by the distant stars, appeared on their radar. "This can't be! It's a Terran ship, a human ship." But how? The ship that now hovered in front of the Galactic Council was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was small, but the weapons mounted on it were massive. The hull was covered in scorch marks, a testament to the battles it had already fought. The ship looked beaten, broken, but in its worn exterior there was an undeniable sense of power. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make the council question everything they thought they knew about Earth. The council members scrambled to assess the situation. Ships from every corner of the galaxy began to flood the space around them, all of them focusing on the human warship. But the ship didn't move. It didn't respond to their communications. Instead, it just hovered in place, like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "The humans have no right to be here," said Zoth. "Destroy them." The council quickly gave orders, and an armada of warships began to charge toward the Terran vessel, their weapons charged and ready. But the humans were ready too. Just as the first ship reached them, a blast of energy shot out from the Terran warship, piercing through the attacking ship's shields like they were paper. The ship exploded in an instant, sending debris scattering in all directions. "What is this?" cried one of the council members, their voice full of disbelief. "This is impossible. We have the strongest fleets in the galaxy. How can a single human ship do this?" Zoth growled in anger. "They must have some kind of trick, some weapon we haven't seen. But it doesn't matter. We'll crush them." The Nazari commander ordered his fleet to close in. But the human ship wasn't finished yet. More blasts erupted from its cannons, each one more powerful than the last. The first few ships were taken down with ease, their massive forms reduced to nothing but burning wrecks. The remaining ships hesitated, unsure of how to handle the human threat. The Council's arrogance was beginning to crumble. They had thought humanity was weak, but now they were learning the painful truth. The humans, were not the frightened, defenseless species they had assumed. They were capable of much more than anyone had realized. "Hold your ground!" Zoth barked, but the council was already in chaos. The unexpected threat was too much for them to handle. The humans were fighting with a fury they had never seen before. The Terran warship, though small in comparison to their fleets, moved like a shadow, slipping in and out of their defenses with deadly precision. The council scrambled to react, sending in their best fighters. But no matter what they threw at the Terran ship, the humans were always one step ahead. Each move, each blast, seemed carefully planned, as if they knew exactly how to outmaneuver every attack. "This cannot be happening," Zoth muttered, his voice shaking. "We are the rulers of this galaxy, and we are being beaten by humans." The final blow came when the Terran warship unleashed a devastating EMP wave, disabling the Council's fleet in an instant. Ships floated aimlessly in space, their power drained, their systems fried. The Council was left powerless, watching as the Terran warship hovered above them, its guns still aimed directly at their ships. The silence in the chamber was deafening. The Galactic Council had thought humanity feared their war, but now they saw the truth. Humans didn't fear, they fought, and they fought to win. "This is just the beginning," President Carter's voice echoed across the galaxy. "You underestimated us, and now you'll learn the price of that mistake." The Council had made their decision, but they had no idea that Earth would never back down. Not now, not ever. They had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The Galactic Council was in chaos. The Terran warship had struck again, and this time the damage was more severe than anyone had anticipated. The once powerful fleet that surrounded the Council chamber was now nothing more than a floating graveyard. Alien warships drifted aimlessly in space, their systems down, their weapons offline. The Galactic Council, once confident in their superiority, now stood on the brink of complete defeat. "What have we done?" Commander Zoth, the Nazari leader, asked through clenched teeth. His normally calm demeanor was shattered. His people had prided themselves on their military strength, yet a single human warship had undone it all. He turned to the rest of the Council, his eyes burning with fury. "We underestimated them. They are not like other species. We cannot simply crush them with brute force." The Council members exchanged uneasy glances, their faces pale. They had thought Earth would be easy to dispose of. After all, the humans had no true warships, no advanced technology. Or so they thought. What the Council didn't understand was that humanity had something far more powerful: determination and resourcefulness. One of the members, a tall and serpentine being with scales that shimmered like silver, spoke up. "We need to end this, now." The Council leader nodded grimly. "We will prepare the fleet. We'll strike with everything we have. If Earth thinks it can challenge the might of the galaxy, it will learn the cost." While the Council scrambled to organize their forces for a counterattack, far below on Earth, President Carter stood before his advisors in a darkened room. The tension in the air was palpable. The attack had been successful, but it was only the beginning. They had made their stand, but the Council would not give up so easily. "We've shaken them, but this won't last," President Carter said. His voice was steady but filled with a sense of urgency. "We need to be ready. The Council will retaliate. We have to strike first." General Rydell, a seasoned military strategist, nodded. "We've been preparing for this moment. Our fleet is ready, but we need the element of surprise. We've already shown them our strength. Now we show them how far we will go to protect Earth." "We have no choice but to finish this," Carter replied, his eyes focused. "We've crossed the line. There's no going back." Meanwhile, high above in space, the second wave of the Council's attack began. Massive warships, each one larger and more imposing than anything Earth had ever seen, began to assemble. The Council was not going to wait for Earth to strike again. They would wipe humanity out in one swift blow. Zoth stood aboard the flagship of the Council, his hands clenched into fists. "We will not be mocked by these humans. They will learn that no one defies the Galactic Council." The alien fleet surged forward, their weapons charged, their intentions clear. They would destroy the Terran warship once and for all, and then wipe Earth from existence. But what the Council didn't know was that the humans had one more trick up their sleeve. As the enemy fleet neared, the Terran fleet emerged from the shadows. They had been lying in wait, hidden among the debris of the destroyed warships. It was a maneuver the Council didn't expect. The humans had always been underestimated. Their ability to plan, to adapt, had always been their greatest strength. The first human warship fired its cannons, and the battle began once again. This time, the humans weren't just defending, they were striking back with everything they had. The Council's warships, larger and more powerful, were no match for the speed and precision of the Terran fleet. Every shot was calculated, every move deliberate. The humans weren't fighting to survive, they were fighting to win. "We've got them now," General Rydell said, watching as enemy ships exploded in the distance. His voice was calm but filled with excitement. Their arrogance has cost them everything, but the battle was far from over. As more ships joined the fight, the humans realized they were facing overwhelming odds. The Council's fleet was vast, and even though the Terran ships were proving their might, it wouldn't be long before the numbers would catch up with them. "We need to act quickly," Carter said, his voice urgent. "We can't afford a prolonged fight. We need to break their lines and force them to retreat." The Terran fleet regrouped, moving swiftly as they launched another series of coordinated strikes. Each move was executed with military precision, but the Council wasn't finished yet. They sent in their elite fighters, faster and deadlier than anything the humans had faced so far. A battle raged in the vacuum of space, one where skill and willpower collided. The Council had underestimated humanity's strength, but now they saw the cost of that mistake. The Terran fleet was relentless, its fighters moving through the battlefield with purpose and determination. Suddenly, the largest of the Council's ships, a massive battlecruiser, loomed in front of the human fleet. It unleashed a barrage of missiles, its weapons crackling with energy. The Terran warships dodged and weaved, but the sheer power of the attack was overwhelming. One by one, the smaller Terran ships were knocked out of the fight, their systems overloaded by the barrage. "This is it," Carter muttered, watching in horror as the enemy fleet moved in. "If we don't do something now, we'll lose everything." But just as it seemed the Terran forces might be overwhelmed, something unexpected happened. From behind the enemy lines, a new force arrived. It was another Terran fleet, even larger than the first, and it was prepared for battle. The Council's ships were stunned as they watched the new arrivals. They had not expected the humans to have this kind of backup. The humans had turned the tide of the battle once more, and now the Council's forces were the ones on the retreat. "Retreat," Zoth ordered, his voice filled with disbelief. "We can't win this fight." The remaining Council ships turned and fled, leaving the humans victorious. The Terran warships celebrated, but there was no time to rest. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. The humans had won their first major victory, but they knew that the Council would never stop coming. Earth had made its stand, but it was only the beginning of a much larger conflict. As the Terran fleet regrouped, President Carter's voice echoed across the galaxy. "We've shown them the truth. Earth will fight, and we will never back down." The galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy held its breath as the news spread. Earth had won a significant victory against the Galactic Council, and now the entire universe was on edge. No one had expected humanity to fight back with such power. The Council, once the undisputed rulers of the stars, were now scrambling to recover from their shock. But the humans, though victorious, knew this battle was far from over. President Carter stood before his war council in the dimly lit command center. The victory was sweet, but it was temporary. "We've won, but we've made enemies of the most powerful beings in the galaxy," he said, his voice calm but filled with resolve. "The council won't stop coming for us. We need to prepare for what's next." General Rydell nodded, his face grim. "They've already begun to regroup. The council doesn't take defeat lightly. Their fleets are vast, and they will send everything they have at us. We can't afford to wait," Carter replied. "We need to strike before they can rebuild." If we hit them hard and fast, we might have a chance to cripple their forces for good. But even as the humans prepared for their next move, the Council was already planning their revenge. Far above, in the heart of their flagship, Zoth seethed with rage. The humiliation of the defeat still burned in his mind. The humans had made a fool of him and his fleet, and now it was time to make them pay. "We will not be beaten by a mere species like them," Zoth snarled, pacing back and forth in his command room. "Prepare the full fleet. This time, we will crush them completely." The Council's warships, massive and formidable, began to assemble once more. This time, however, they had something different in mind. They were no longer just planning an attack. They were preparing to launch an all-out assault, one that would overwhelm Earth's defenses. Zoth knew that the humans had shown their strength, but he also knew they had only scratched the surface of what the Council could do. "They won't know what hit them," Zoth said, staring out the window of his flagship at the vast emptiness of space. "We will make Earth regret ever challenging us." As the days passed, the humans braced themselves for the inevitable. President Carter, though confident in his forces, couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. They had won a battle, but the war was just beginning. They needed to act quickly. If they gave the Council time to recover, Earth would never have a chance. "We need to hit them hard," Carter told his commanders. "We can't let them regroup. I want every available ship ready for combat. We're going after their flagship. If we can take it down, the rest of the fleet will fall apart." General Riddell agreed. "The flagship is the heart of their power. If we destroy it, they'll lose their command structure. We'll have a fighting chance." But as the humans prepared to launch their own attack, the Council's forces were already on the move. With a fleet twice as large as the one that had been defeated before, Zoth led the charge. His ships, sleek and deadly, cut through space like knives. They were fast, efficient, and ready to take on Earth's defenses. "We will show the humans their place," Zoth muttered, his voice cold with determination. "This time, we will not fail." As the Council's fleet approached Earth, the humans were already positioning their warships for the counterstrike. The tension was unbearable, and Carter's heart pounded as he watched the enemy fleet grow larger on the radar. This would be their final stand. "All ships, prepare for battle," Carter ordered. "We fight for Earth. We fight for our survival." The first shots were fired just moments later, and the battle erupted with a deafening roar. The sky above Earth lit up with the flash of lasers and explosions as the two fleets clashed in a fiery storm of destruction. The humans fought with everything they had, launching wave after wave of attacks. But the Council's fleet was relentless, pressing forward with overwhelming force. "We're holding them back," General Riddell said. But his voice was tinged with uncertainty. "But we can't keep this up forever. We need to take down their flagship now, or we'll be outnumbered." Carter nodded, his jaw set in determination. "I know, we need to move quickly. If we don't destroy it, we lose everything." With a coordinated strike, the humans targeted the flagship. Their warships fired in unison, sending a barrage of missiles and energy blasts toward the heart of the enemy fleet. But the Council wasn't about to let their flagship fall without a fight. Defensive shields activated, and the flagship retaliated with powerful beams of energy that tore through the human ships. Despite the overwhelming odds, the humans pressed on. The battle was fierce, and the Council's ships fell one by one, their once proud fleets burning in the void of space. But the flagship remained standing, a towering symbol of the Council's power. Then, in a sudden twist, a new threat emerged. From the depths of space, a fleet of unknown ships appeared, arriving just in time to support the Council's forces. These ships, unlike any the humans had seen before, were massive and heavily armed. They charged into the fray, reinforcing the Council's dwindling fleet. "This is it," Carter muttered, his heart sinking. "We're outnumbered." But just as hope seemed lost, an unexpected ally appeared. From the edge of the battlefield, a small group of Terran ships appeared, emerging from the shadows. These were the warships Earth had built in secret, equipped with the most advanced weapons humanity could muster. The new fleet moved in quickly, surrounding the Council's forces. Earth's not done yet, Carter said, a new fire in his eyes. We've got one last shot at this. The unexpected reinforcements shifted the balance of power. The humans launched a final, all-out assault on the Council's flagship. The battle was brutal, but the Terran ships fought with a fury that could not be stopped. With one last powerful strike, the flagship exploded in a massive fireball, taking the heart of the Council's forces with it. The remaining Council ships, leaderless and in chaos, began to retreat. Earth had done the impossible. They had fought off the might of the Galactic Council once again. We've won, Carter said, a sense of relief flooding over him. But the war isn't over. We've shown the galaxy who we are, and we will never back down. The humans had made their stand, and they had proven that they were not just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Council had been defeated, but the true war was just beginning. The battle was over, but the tension was far from gone. Earth had dealt the Galactic Council a devastating blow, and for a moment there was silence. The aftermath of the fight left Earth's skies scorched and space littered with the debris of countless destroyed ships. The humans, though victorious, knew that the war was not truly over. The Council, humiliated by their defeat, would not stop until they had exacted their revenge. President Carter stood on the observation deck of his flagship, staring out into the vastness of space. The stars twinkled, as if mocking the fragile peace that had settled over Earth. He had won, yes, but at what cost? How long could they keep up this fight against an enemy so powerful? We need to rebuild and prepare, General Riddell said, breaking the silence. He stepped up beside Carter, his face weary but determined. The Council will come back, and next time they'll be stronger. We need to hit them before they can regroup. Carter nodded slowly. He knew Riddell was right. We've shown the galaxy that we're not afraid. But now we need to show them that we're ready for anything. Earth can't afford to sit back and wait for them to strike first. As the days passed, the humans focused on their defenses, repairing the damage done during the battle and preparing for the inevitable next phase. They knew they had a brief window of time to strike before the Council fully recovered. The Terran fleet had grown stronger, but so had the Council's resolve. A new plan was forming, one that could turn the tide of the war once and for all. Meanwhile, the Council was not idle. High above the remnants of their destroyed fleet, Zoth, the Nezari commander, fumed with rage. His species had been humiliated, and the other members of the Council had shown him no mercy for his failure. The idea of retreat was intolerable. They would not let a primitive species defeat them. "We will destroy Earth," Zoth growled, his voice low with fury. "This time we will strike at the heart of their power. We will break them completely." His words were cold and determined. The Council had already begun preparing for their next assault, and they would not stop until humanity was crushed. Zoth knew the humans were strong, but they lacked the resources to fight a war on this scale. He believed they would fold under the weight of the Council's full force. It was only a matter of time. On Earth, Carter had a different perspective. "We need to know what they're planning," he said, pacing in his war room. "We can't wait for them to strike first. We need intelligence on their movements. We've been trying to tap into their communication networks," General Riddell said, standing beside him. "But they've fortified everything. They're preparing for something big. I have a feeling they're getting ready to launch another full-scale attack." Carter's mind raced. If they didn't learn the Council's plans, they would be caught off guard. "We need to strike first," he said, stopping in his tracks. "We can't let them rebuild their forces. We'll hit them hard and fast before they're ready. We need a plan," Riddell replied. "We can't just rush in blindly," Carter nodded. "We'll take the fight to their homeworld. If we can disrupt their central command, we can cripple their ability to coordinate their fleets. If we knock out their leadership, the rest of their forces will crumble." The decision was made. Earth would launch a daring offensive, attacking the heart of the Council's power. But it was risky. If they failed, they would leave themselves open to a counterattack, and the consequences would be dire. The Terran fleet gathered in the dead of night, slipping into the shadows of space. Their target was the central command station on the Council's homeworld, a fortress of unimaginable power. If the humans succeeded, they would strike a crippling blow to the Council. But if they failed, Earth's last hope would be lost. "We've got one shot at this," General Rydell said as he stood beside Carter, watching the fleet prepare for launch. "If we hit them hard and fast, we might have a chance. But if we hesitate, it's over." The fleet moved out, silently cutting through the dark expanse of space. The mission was clear, but the uncertainty weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Carter's heart pounded in his chest as they approached the Council's homeworld, the massive command station looming in the distance. "This is it," Carter said, his voice tight with anticipation. "Let's make sure they know who they're dealing with." As they neared the command station, the tension in the air was palpable. The humans had to move quickly, striking before the Council's fleet could react. The first wave of Terran ships launched a devastating bombardment, hitting the station's outer defenses with precision. The explosions rocked the station, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. "Keep moving," Rydell ordered. "We've got to keep them off balance." The humans pressed forward, targeting the command center. But just as they thought they had the upper hand, the Council unleashed a counterattack. From the depths of space, a fleet of new ships appeared, more advanced than anything the humans had faced before. "They've been hiding this from us," Carter muttered, his eyes widening as the new ships came into view. "We weren't prepared for this." The Council's new fleet was overwhelming. With advanced weapons and superior firepower, they quickly surrounded the Terran ships. The humans were outnumbered, and it looked as though the tide was turning in favor of the Council. "We can't hold them off," Rydell said, his voice strained. "We need to fall back, or we'll lose everything." But Carter wasn't ready to give up. "No," he said, a fire burning in his eyes. "We're not retreating. We're not done yet." In a last-ditch effort, Carter ordered a full-force attack on the command station's core. The Terran fleet launched everything they had, pushing forward with all their might. For a brief moment, the battle seemed to slow, and in that stillness the humans made their final move. A massive explosion rocked the station as the core was breached, sending a shockwave across the galaxy. The Council's forces faltered. The command station was in ruins, and their fleet without leadership was scattered. The humans had done it. Against all odds, they had struck a decisive blow. The Council's power had been shattered, and the humans stood victorious. "We did it," General Rydell said, disbelief in his voice. "We actually did it." President Carter smiled, exhaustion lining his face. "This is just the beginning. Earth has shown the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated. And we won't stop fighting until we've won this war." The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Council had been struck a crippling blow, but they were not defeated. The humans had proven their strength, and now the galaxy would see what Earth was truly capable of. The victory over the Council had been hard won, but President Carter knew that Earth had only taken a single step toward survival. The Council, humiliated by their defeat, were already regrouping, their vast fleet scattered but not destroyed. The humans had delivered a blow that would leave a mark on the galaxy, but the war was far from over. The Council would not rest until they had crushed Earth completely. In the quiet command room of the Terran flagship, the weight of the battle seemed to hang in the air. The fleet was still in one piece, but their resources were stretched thin. Carter paced in front of the large view screen, staring at the wreckage of the Council's command station, which was still smoking in the distance. Despite their success, the humans knew their time was running out. They couldn't rely on surprise attacks or hope that the Council's defeat would end the war. It was clear now that they would have to fight with everything they had. "We've done what we could," General Rydell said, his voice tense. "But they'll be back. And next time they won't be unprepared." "I know," Carter replied, his eyes narrowing. "We can't sit here waiting for them to recover. We need to take the fight to them before they rebuild. But we also need to be smart about it." The tension between them was palpable. Carter understood that the humans had barely scraped by with their last victory. The Council's fleets, though damaged, were still an overwhelming force. Carter's mind raced, thinking of their options. "We can't keep fighting this way," It's too costly. We need to hit their power base, the source of their fleet production. General Rydell nodded. But their factories are scattered across the galaxy. The closest one is heavily defended. We won't take it head-on, Carter said, a cold determination in his voice. We'll infiltrate their supply lines, hit them where they least expect it. We have to cripple their production before they have a chance to come back stronger. As the humans began to prepare for the next phase of their mission, deep within the Council's command ship, Zoth, the Nazari commander, was stewing with anger. The defeat had stung him deeply, and he knew that the Council's reputation had been severely damaged. But it wasn't over, not yet. They had the strength to crush the humans, and Zoth was determined to make sure that they would not survive the next battle. We will show the humans what happens when they defy the might of the Galactic Council, Zoth snarled, his voice low with fury. We will take the fight to Earth, destroy everything they hold dear. His advisors, members of the most powerful species in the galaxy, nodded grimly. The defeat had shaken them, but their resolve was hardening. The humans had caught them off guard, but that wouldn't happen again. We have already begun preparations, one of the advisors said. Our new warships are ready, and we will strike soon. But this time we will not underestimate the humans. They've become too bold, Zoth muttered. We will break them. We will show them that there is no escape from the Council's wrath. Meanwhile, on Earth, Carter's plan to disrupt the Council's fleet production was moving forward. A small, elite force was assembled, tasked with infiltrating one of the Council's most heavily guarded factories. The mission was dangerous, but it was their best chance to weaken the Council's ability to produce warships. We'll move under the radar, General Rydell explained, his voice calm but full of intensity. This is a covert operation. If we're discovered, we'll be outnumbered and outgunned. But we don't have a choice, Carter nodded. This is our best shot. We need to take out their factory, cripple their warship production. If we do that, we might be able to buy enough time to hit them again before they rebuild. The small force of soldiers, pilots, and engineers set out under the cover of darkness, their ships hidden from radar. The journey was long, and the weight of the mission weighed heavily on everyone's shoulders. They knew that their chances of success were slim, but they had no other choice. They had to hit the Council where it hurt. As the team neared the factory, a massive hidden installation on a desolate planet, they felt the full weight of the mission. Their ships moved quietly through space, staying just out of range of enemy patrols. But their luck wouldn't hold. Alert, we've been detected. One of the soldiers shouted, his voice panicked. The Council's forces are moving in on us. The atmosphere shifted immediately, from calm preparation to high alert. We have no time to waste, General Rydell snapped. Deploy the strike teams now. The humans moved quickly, preparing for a fight. Their mission to infiltrate the factory now had a new objective, survival. They weren't just here to sabotage the production line. Now they had to fight their way through enemy forces to escape. The tension was palpable, but their training kicked in. They had to stay focused. The factory loomed ahead, an imposing structure of metal and machinery. As they made their way closer, they could see the Council's warships moving in, determined to stop them. The human soldiers fought with everything they had, using their smaller, faster ships to weave in and out of the larger, slower Council warships. But it wasn't enough. The Council's forces were too strong, and the humans were being overwhelmed. We need to break through their lines, Carter shouted over the comms. Deploy everything we've got. We can't let them stop us now. The battle raged on, with explosions lighting up the sky and the ground shaking beneath their feet. The humans fought with desperation, knowing that their survival depended on the success of this mission. The factory was in sight, but the enemy was closing in fast. Just as the Council's forces seemed ready to overwhelm them, something unexpected happened. A new fleet of human ships appeared from the shadows, led by a massive flagship. It was the reinforcements the humans had been waiting for. We're not alone, General Rydell breathed, watching the new fleet arrive. The human reinforcements arrived just in time, turning the tide of the battle. With their support, the humans were able to push back the Council's forces, making their way into the heart of the factory. "We did it," Carter said, his voice a mix of relief and disbelief. "We've crippled their production." As the factory burned behind them, the humans made their escape. The mission had been a success. Against all odds, they had struck a crippling blow to the Council's war effort. The humans had proven once again that they were not to be underestimated. But even as they celebrated, Carter knew this was only the beginning. The Council would regroup and they would come for Earth again. But this time the humans were ready. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not just a planet to conquer, it was a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy was on edge, and Earth was no exception. After their bold victory, the humans knew they had only bought themselves a little time. The Council, once thought to be invincible, had suffered devastating losses, but they were far from finished. President Carter knew that the humans had to keep pushing forward. They couldn't afford to rest. Every day that passed meant the Council had more time to regroup, more time to plan their next move. In the command room aboard the flagship, Carter stood in front of the massive display screen, watching the stars drift by. The galaxy felt cold, distant, and full of threats. "We've made an impact, but they won't stop coming," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. General Rydell, always the strategist, was beside him. "The Council will retaliate. They won't forget what we did to them. But this time, we can't let them control the narrative. We need to make the next strike before they can recover." Carter nodded. "We need to find out where their next move will come from. The last attack on their production facility worked, but now we need to hit them at the core. Their leadership. If we take them out, they'll scatter." "We need intel," Rydell said, his expression serious. "We need to get inside their command structure. If we don't, we're just waiting for them to come for us again." The plan was set. The humans had no choice but to launch another daring mission, but this time they had to go straight for the heart of the Council's power. They had to take out the one thing that held the Council together, their leadership. A small, elite team was assembled. Their mission was to infiltrate the heart of the Council's command and strike at the leaders who had brought war to Earth. The operation was risky, but it was their best shot at ending this conflict once and for all. "We'll be moving under the radar," General Rydell explained to the team. "We'll slip into their territory quietly, hit their command ship, and eliminate the leadership. If we fail, it's over. No second chances," the team nodded. They had all been through hell already, and they knew this mission could very well be their last. But they also knew the stakes. If they succeeded, the Council would fall apart. But if they failed, Earth would be vulnerable, and the Council would destroy everything in its path. The ship that would carry them was small but powerful, designed for stealth. As they crossed the vastness of space, the weight of their task loomed large. They could feel the tension in the air, thick with the unknown. "Approaching the target," the pilot called, breaking the silence. "We'll be in range in 5 minutes." Everyone checked their gear, ensuring that everything was in place. There was no room for error, no second chances. As they neared the Council's flagship, the silence was deafening. Their ship moved through space like a shadow, unseen and unnoticed. It was the perfect opportunity. But as they got closer, things began to change. "Something's wrong," the sensor officer said, her voice tight with concern. "We're being scanned. They know we're here." Carter's heart skipped a beat. "How?" he muttered under his breath. "They can't have detected us. We're too far off the grid." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. The entire ship shook as enemy forces appeared out of nowhere, surrounding them from all sides. The Council had been prepared after all. They had been waiting for the humans to strike. "This isn't just a coincidence," Rydell said, his voice filled with realization. "They knew we'd come. We've been set up." The team exchanged worried glances, but there was no time for doubt. The mission hadn't changed. Get to the Council leadership or die trying. Prepare for combat. Carter shouted, rallying the team. "We have one chance. Let's make it count." The ship sped forward, dodging fire from the Council's warships. The smaller human ship was fast, but the sheer number of enemy ships made it hard to maneuver. Their weapons fired in unison, but the humans were outnumbered and outgunned. "Move, move, move!" Riddell yelled as the ship shook again from a blast. "We're almost there. We can't stop now." They were so close to the flagship, but the Council's forces were tightening the noose. The ship's hull was taking damage, and the systems were starting to fail. "Almost there," Carter said, his jaw clenched. "Get us through that line. We have to breach the flagship." "Sir," the sensor officer shouted, "we've got an incoming fleet. The Council is sending reinforcements." "We don't have time for this," Carter said, slamming his fist on the table. "We make our move now. Full speed ahead." The ship surged forward, breaking through the enemy line. The humans were relentless, pushing through with everything they had left. As they neared the flagship, the last line of defense appeared, a massive barrier of energy surrounding the ship. "We can't break through that," the pilot shouted. "Yes, we can," Carter said, his eyes steely with determination. "Full power to the front shields. We'll smash through." The ship barreled toward the energy field. There was no turning back now. The impact was violent, the shockwaves rattling the crew. But against all odds, the human ship pierced the energy barrier and slammed into the heart of the Council's flagship. Inside, chaos erupted. The elite team rushed forward, weapons drawn, as they infiltrated the command center. The Council's leaders were already there, preparing for the humans' arrival. They had expected it, but they weren't prepared for the fury of Earth's soldiers. "Get down!" Carter shouted as shots rang out. The team returned fire, storming through the command center. The Council leaders were on the defensive now, scrambling to protect themselves. But they were outmatched. One by one, the leaders fell. Carter stood in front of the final leader, Zoth, who had caused so much pain for Earth. "You thought you could crush us," Carter said, his voice cold. "But you underestimated humanity." "We fight to the end," Zoth sneered, blood dripping from his wounds. "You may have won this battle, but you'll never win the war. The galaxy will never accept you." "We're not asking for acceptance," Carter replied. "We're taking control." With that, the final blow was struck, and the Council's leadership was no more. The mission was a success. As they made their escape, Carter looked out at the burning remains of the Council's flagship. The war was far from over, but today the humans had shown the galaxy their true strength. Earth had survived again, and as long as humanity stood, the Council would never have the chance to rule the stars again.